Well, welcome everybody to EG versus MUFC. You're watching the G1 League. Godz is in the Philippines, but fortunately Draskyl is here to bail me out. I am LD, of course, and Draskyl, EG, a team I know you have cast a lot for Raid Call, for ECAL, for a bunch of other North American tournaments. They're doing okay in this league so far, but I have to say they've shown a propensity to get these big leads, most notably against Sequential Gaming, and well, let me just say they're not holding on to those leads when they should be.
That's kind of the story of EG for a long time. I don't even think it's with their new roster. They did officially announce everybody joining bdiz and jeyo after a while, and everybody knew it was going to happen. But regardless, I totally agree. There's not really much else to be said. For whatever reason, their early game is really strong. Like, I watch them and they make very, very few mistakes. And then mid-game, their decision-making kind of just goes, well, we lost because we made 2 or 3 really bad engagements, and then every single thing that we worked for in the beginning of the game has gone away, which most teams nowadays, they've kind of gotten over that phase. I'd say most top tier teams don't have that kind of decision making where it's like, we're going to take a team fight and then we're going to lose because of it. So I don't know. Hopefully they can not show that kind of thing here today against MUFC. And I haven't really got to catch that much either. So there's like one team I know and one team that I haven't got to see at all.
Apparently some people are saying I'm not in a broadcaster slot. I don't know if I'm getting trolled, but
Oh, you are.
I heard you in
when I got
game,
the game.
so...
Yeah.
Guys, I hate you all very much, and you're getting trolled right back for game 2. It'll be something. I'm not going to tell you what just yet. Bounty Hunter first pick. This is a hero that IG were first picking and just crushing with, and EG perhaps taking a page out of their book. MUFC get their hands on Batrider. They're one of the teams that do love to use it. It's sort of a Southeast Asian favorite, and after these changes, should be a strong pick. For anyone who's not familiar with MUFC, they've had some roster changes. They've said goodbye to Nick and TFG. Nick used to be sort of their, or Silver Star, Silver Cross, excuse me, as he's known, was sort of their carry player. Usually it was a lot of weight was on his shoulders to win them games, but they're now replaced by ohaiyo and Ken. Those are their 2 big farmers. Those are their 2 sort of 1 and 2 position players. So let's see what they can make happen. But EG with the Bounty Hunter first pick, I feel this is the best offlane solo in this version, unless the enemy team plays absolutely perfectly. Just a patch that rewards kills, that rewards aggression, rewards trading, with increases to kill bounties and 6.75, and well, Bounty Hunter makes that even more viable, and he was already a decent pick.
He already was good. Plus, as an offlaner, you have to spend money just to even try to kill him. That's one of the things that makes him so annoying, is because your supports are basically down 200 gold for no reason if they want to try to kill the bounty in the early game, and they take Jakiro as well, so it looks like they're going for more of, I want to make sure our lanes are really good early on. They take one of the better supports in this version, which is obviously Jakiro. His ice patch is to take a tiny nerf, like a 1/10 of a second in terms of set time, which shouldn't really matter too much in 15 increased mana cost, and I still feel as though with his stat gain, he's really not going to feel that too much. He might get like 1 less ice path after like 5 or 6 casts when he's full mana from that point, but if you get that many off in a team fight, people are probably going to be dying anyway, so I guess the nerf doesn't really mean a whole lot. But MUFC is going to take Chen and Sand King, so they're not skimping out in the early game either, and EG responds right away with a disruptor, and I feel as though that hero is going to be seeing a lot more play, and I honestly am a bit surprised he hasn't seen a lot lately, just because of the fact that Force Staff doesn't get you out of kinetic field anymore. You pretty much need a BKB. I really don't have much else to say. I don't know. He's really strong.
And also, in case you didn't catch Navi versus IG, Glimpse is pretty ridiculous, especially if you have anything to give you vision, which, oh, by the way, they do, because they have a Bounty Hunter spamming out track, and that insane 1800 range available for it. It's also nice against these Blink initiators, Batrider and Sand King. Now, Sand King could be one of their supports, but they jump in, and if you're really quick on the reactions, just glimpse them back, and the aggression is completely thwarted, so... I like this pick from EG. I think it's got some good synergy with Bounty Hunter. For MUFC, they're going back to something that really, this is how they were playing a lot more heading into the international, was going for the jungler to be handled by Sharky. And this is a team that generally they just try to win the lanes hard. They're not a team that really goes for team fight as much. At least they weren't in the past. They were doing something different earlier in this tournament when they played against IG. I don't know if that's just because it was IG and teams figure they have to try something different because they're not going to beat them playing standard. But this time they're going back to, I would say, their roots a little bit, and they picked the Chen, they picked the Sand King, the Batrider, plenty of initiation, plenty of mid-game threats, but this team does need quite a few levels before they can really hit their prime.
A Sand King is one of the supports that I feel needs levels the most. Disruptor's kind of the same, but given the fact that they've only taken a Bounty Jakiro Disruptor, I wouldn't put it past them to run mid. They've done it before in the past. I know Bulba used to do it before he took his lead from EG, so it's a definite possibility that EG has in their roster. Plus, we also forgot to mention that Glimpse breaks Batrider's ultimate, which is pretty ridiculously powerful in team fights. Yeah, it works like a blink mechanic, so it will break the tether, which means that his ultimate is going to be really, really difficult to get off in a lot of situations. And Batrider himself is so reliant on being able to get in and out of team fights, he doesn't have that much to help him get out. Oftentimes with Batrider, we see heroes like Bounty picked up with it because you get that extra track speed, you can get a blink, and then just use track to be able to get out because of the increased run speed. But he doesn't really have that here, so him initiating is going to be far riskier until we see what the last two picks are going to be. And overall, in terms of stability in team fights, I feel like EG's lineup is a little bit easier to execute. Like you said, they got the Bounty to make sure that trades, once he starts getting track up, is always going to be in their favor unless they lose it horribly, in which case, you know, MUFC is obviously going to come out on top. But I feel as though the onus is going to be on them to play better than EG right now, given the first three heroes. And that's honestly, in my opinion, just good drafting, is when you feel like your team has a higher chance of success just based because your abilities are easier to use together. I mean, it's a strategy, and it works.
Right, and it should be mentioned, of course, for anyone who hasn't been watching the G1 League, all these matches are on the Singapore server, so EG's playing with some delay and picking a little bit more of a reliable lineup. Not only is it good in general, and a good sort of a better way to win your games in general, but especially when you're dealing with a little bit of delay, which, by the way, they signed up before they knew about it, so let's not make any excuses for them. But it should be mentioned, it is a factor. And MUFC banning out some solos. It does look like EG needs at least one more. It'll probably be the offlane Bounty. I'm guessing a Disruptor Jakiro tri-lane and then another solo, something for Jeyo. What are you thinking for EG the rest of the way? What do you think they should pick? What do you think they're going to go for?
I think their options are pretty wide open at this point. I know in the past they've had this kind of gravitation towards heroes like Void when they already have good AoE abilities. I mean, you have Macro Pyre, you have Static Storm, both of which can overlap over the Sphere anyway. And I know that Fear does love playing the hero, although it could just as easily be a Bounty Hunter Fear too. I mean, I know he's played that. That would mean their offlaner is going to have to be something different, but Bounty being one of the safest, I'm not sure if they're going to go that route necessarily. I do feel like Void is a very, very good possibility, though, given the heroes that MUFC has. Late game, they don't really have anything to answer it just yet, and since he is one of the hardest carries because of his ultimate and because of his scaling with backtrack and attack speed and bash late game, I feel like it would be a really strong pickup for them. They don't need the extra laning. They have Jakiro, who's one of the strongest. They have a Disruptor and a Bounty Hunter as well. So I think they have their early mid game pretty solidified, and they're either going to go with a carry +1 anyway or an extra support to run a tri-lane, and I feel as though Void still fits them really nicely.
I'm also wondering what MUFC are going to go for, because this is a team that loves to pick heroes like Queen of Pain. They like their strong solos, they like the aggressive early to mid-game gankers, but they banned out two of the best in the Knights, in fact three of the best. The Invoker, obviously something Jeyo would love to get his hands on, but then the Night Stalker and the Queen of Pain as well. Now, the Night Stalker ban, pretty much a necessity. We've seen the Night Stalker with Track and with Bounty Hunter, these two sort of roaming as a pack. IG showed it a couple of days ago in this event. It's just too strong, and it's very difficult to deal with. So it makes sense, but they also removed some heroes they would like to get their hands on, and I'm really wondering now, what is ohaiyo going to play? What is Ken going to play? There's a Windrunner in the pool. That's something they played in the past, but it's a hero that Ken it's a nice sort of versatile pick, but I don't feel like it's as high of an impact hero as what they need, really. They need something that can just win them fights and control the game. And, well, there you go. It's a tiny, and I think we might be looking at a Wisp here to round things out. There's no way EG can really fit that into their lineup.
It's a very creative way of taking the combo if they do decide to do it, because we've seen teams in the past just first and second pick Wisp or Tiny or Wisp and CK and things like that, and it really gives away what you're going for. And plus the fact that they're waiting until the supports are already picked up from EG means that they're feeling confident in the fact that they can lane a Wisp and not have it completely shut down, which is one of his weakest points. Is you can't really lane a Wisp against a real tri-lane or any lane with dual kill capability. It's very, very difficult for him, and he struggles early on. And in terms of banning out the Night Stalker and the Queen of Pain, I feel as though they're banning out heroes with high chase potential, because their team right now, MUFC, they have Batrider's ultimate, Epicenter, Hand of God, and then a Tiny. So it's all burst-oriented, all get in, get out kind of fighting. And if you give away the Night Stalker, like you said, with a track, or even the Queen of Pain, who has that blink, EG can really choose their engagements, and I think that MUFC wants to be the one who can always initiate and not really suffer too much for it. So it kind of takes a little bit of pressure off them to 100% succeed if you don't have to worry about getting chased all the way across the map by those heroes.
Wow. Lich.
Wasn't expecting that one. Was not expecting that.
I wonder how they're planning on laning him. I mean, you would assume it's probably... Actually, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe a dual lane mid, a safe lane farming Sand King, off lane Batrider, and then Chen just helping out that Sand King. We could see Lich roaming around. I'm not sure. These are not with these last two picks. Lich gives you a really strong laner, but they have the Sand King and the Tiny who aren't really going to be able to do much in the early game to shut down Bounty Hunter. They're not incredibly strong killers until they get levels. But this Lich pick, it gives them some good team fight. I wonder how much it's really going to do. We talked about EG having the more stable picks. With the Undying and the Jakiro, I feel like you can just deathball. Once Undying gets some farm, it's normally Fear who plays it. You just group up, and it's very hard to fight. They don't have enough physical DPS to kill the Tombstone early on. There's no Templar Assassin or anything like that. Tiny can have it in the mid game, but if you can't kill that Tombstone and there's a Jakiro backing up Undying, I don't know how MUFC fight 5-5. I feel like they have to get some sort of advantage early on, get the ganks rolling, and Wisp might have done that, but they're not going to go for it.
I think the Lich has to be against the Bounty Hunter in this situation. There's no other reason to pick him. He's not good in the off lane unless you're running an aggressive try with the Sand King, and wow, EG goes for Clockwork. So much for what I was thinking, and they're going to go with it a very, very aggressive style, and Jeyo's going to pick it up too. So yeah, this is going to be potentially a mid Clockwork that we're going to be seeing here for the first time, and I would say a very long time. And honestly, if you max out Rocket, even laning against the Batrider, if that is what it boils down to here, if they're not going to do a dual lane or anything cheeky like that, Clockwork does okay. You can just start off with a wand and a stout shield and be relatively fine as long as you don't get above like 4 or 5 stacks. That's when Napalm really starts doing the dirty work for you. And it also gives him indefinite mana to spam those rockets and make sure that he can still get some semblance of CS. So we'll see how it works out. And it looks like bdiz is going to be playing Disruptor, so it's not going to be a mid. And I'm really already excited for this game because I was not expecting these picks really from EG. They've changed things up a little bit since the last time I've seen them.
And it's not even a Fear. I thought Fear would be playing the Undying, but he's playing the Bounty Hunter. Maybe this is a mistake, and I guess they could swap. It's got to be a mistake, right? Yeah, they're swapping all over the place now. Demon's on the Clockwork. That's gonna be his hero. It's a Fear Bounty Hunter. Are they running?
It's gonna be a farming safe lane Bounty, I think. Yeah, they're pulling him regen and everything.
No,
he's going off lane.
This is very odd. You'd expect Demon to play it, but I guess it's just a hero Fear wants to play. Well, let's introduce the players. Fear going to be handling that Bounty Hunter. Like you said, pulled a lot of regen and starting with the poor man's shield. It's going to make it harder to harass him. Demon playing that Clockwork. Magic Stick already up, expects to lane against the Batrider. maelk playing that hard support Jakiro. Sentry wards for him, and then a tri-lane Undying it looks to be. Jeyo handling the Undying, and bdiz on the Disruptor.
I don't know about this necessarily. I mean, whenever Fear plays it, they usually put him in a lane where he can actually farm. Maybe just Demon didn't want to go in the off lane this game or something like that. But regardless, he starts with a poor man's shield that makes him ridiculously hard to kill. And since he's going to be going up against the Batrider bottom, it's not going to be a bad mid, so they are doing a dual lane. That means that he's going to be struggling a little bit. And, well, I guess actually not at all since they don't have sentries just yet. So, yeah, he should be pretty much fine down here.
Yeah, over on the side of MUFC, we have Sharky handling the Batrider, and it's actually Ling playing that Chen. Meanwhile, it's Ken handling the Sand King, so it looks like a solo mid Sand King. You're going to be getting a lot of farm. And so they're prioritizing getting that early Blink Dagger, getting the early levels up, which I think it's important in this game. I think you really do need an active Sand King who could go in first, set up your Batrider, set up your Tiny, net on the Lich, gets a Haster, and he'll be supporting Ohaiyo, so it's an off-lane Tiny with Lich supporting him. Maybe some mind games going on, maybe each team trying to outthink each other. I don't think they're going to get anything done against this tri-lane, and Tiny's probably going to be pretty underleveled and underfarmed.
Now, Tiny doesn't really have a whole lot of the lane presence early on. He did start enough stat items to have combo at level 2, but I mean, level 2 combo just isn't that powerful, especially when you're going up against a hero like Dirge, who has really good base strength and strength gain, and you're also engaging into a Tombstone, possibly Solar Up and Decay. So if you ever make a mistake, this Lich is basically going to be dropping for it. Maybe they're just kind of banking on the fact that they can just spam Sacrifice and give the early game of EG a little bit of a hindrance in terms of farm and Jeyo's part, and not really have that kind of presence where you can just tank a tower and just go in with your ultimate on and dive with Tombstone. But I don't really know if that's really enough to warrant the way they've kind of put lanes. I do think that Sand King is a good matchup against Clockwork, though, just because of how Caustic works, and it's going to force him to play a little bit passive. But Clockwork is so reliant on how you play that even if you have a great start, you miss a couple of hooks, then that could be all she wrote for your team fight.
And as far as the tri-lane goes, I completely agree with you about Sand King, by the way. I really like Caustic Finale versus almost any melee hero. But denying his Lich is nice, but it's pretty much completely negated by the double pulling from EG. I feel if you want to do this, you got to ward off the camps, and they didn't do it. Ling's now jungling in his own jungle, which is fine. Chen needs With the changes to him, he really needs more levels in farm than he did before, because everything's so expensive now. If you want to be able to send an ally back. Bottom lane, Fear is taking some harassment, but that poor man should really helping him out. So far, Fear's getting levels. The tri lane is pulling a lot. They're not killing off Tiny, but ohaiyo's still only level 1. Mid lane, we'll call it pretty even so far. It might get harder for Demon as the levels go. And so a lot of pressure, I think, on lane on this Chen to make things happen for his team.
Well, the Chen really can't do much. That's the problem. He needs like a Dark Troll Warlord and some massive, massive Sticky Napalm coming out of Sharky down here to make anything happen on this bounty, because with the poor man's up, he's not going to be taking really any damage whatsoever. I mean, on the bright side, they are going to be able to get their bat relative free farm. It's not like Bounty Hunter can really contest him necessarily. He can still get his own farm, and he's going to hit level 6 in a timely fashion, which gives him a leg up, I think, on the off lane of MUFC at the moment, because if Bounty gets track before this Tiny even gets like level 8 or 9 when you have the full combo and 1 rank into growth, then I think they're going to be kind of struggling during the mid game. I don't know if this top lane is really going to do anything for them at all.
It's not so far, and you know, it begs the question. You could throw Batrider into the jungle. What I've seen other teams do is they'll let Batrider get a level or 2 in the bottom lane, then they'll have him start jungling. The jungle has been warded off, but they could have bought sentries to de-ward. And then Tiny could be farming that safe lane. You could have Lich just soloing the top lane and just denying a lot of experience as much as possible anyway. And sure, it's not the strongest harassment, but Bounty Hunter's getting levels anyway, so it's not like Batrider's really shutting him down. It's just not sure if the trade-offs are working so far. Gold experience-wise, it's quite even, but like you said, quick track to come out, and well, MUFC, if they start giving up track kills, they're going to be in trouble. So let's see how things develop. Right now, EG just constantly pulling both the small camp and the standard pull camp. And jeyo's being pretty aggressive up here. This is the power of Undying in the lane. He can man mode even when the Lich and the Tiny are both trying to fight him off.
He's also going for more points in Decay so far than Tombstone, so it really shows that he wants to just bully the lane as hard as he can. And right now, Tiny's still only level 2. I mean, it's 3-4 minutes into the game, and this Lich pick, it feels as though they had an idea but didn't really follow through with that well, because like you said, they didn't ward the pull spots or anything, so it's cool in a way to get Lich just to sacrifice from a lane that otherwise would be very hard to contest, because it's, first off, you're offlane and you're going up against a try, so if you want to try versus try, that's one thing, but this is a method that is trying to reduce as much experience of gold as possible, and they kind of went at it a little bit half-assed, which I'm a bit surprised that MFC would take it that way, and especially given the fact that Lich Ultimate, I don't feel is that strong against the lineup that EG has in the first place. They have a couple of heroes who are really, really tanky. They're going to be going tanky items. I would expect to see Fast Mech and Pipe Up both from EG, so I don't know if even getting a fast level 6 in the Lich is going to do much in team fights. I kind of worry for their mid game.
And they're already pushing. They're pushing this top lane. There was a smoke gank attempted by lane while this was going on. Unsuccessful, unable to get it. And to make matters even worse, Demon also manages to pick up a haster. And despite it being on the bottom lane, the action picks up top. Maelk tossed back into the tower. But where's the follow-up? Where's that burst damage? ohaiyo gets caught by the ice pet. First blood claimed by EG. And they might even go for 2. Nah, jeyo a little bit low on HP and mana. The tombstone was dropped for this, but first blood, and Tiny, a hero that needs a decent start, not getting it so far.
It's really going to hurt them, because now if they want to have him recover, they have to commit to putting him in a lane by himself and just forcing issues on the other parts of the map, which is not what you want with a Tiny. Tiny's strength comes in the fact that not only can he carry very hard, given the right circumstances, but his mid-game is also extremely strong. They're going to need the Toss Avalanche combo for damage, period. They can't allow him to just sit somewhere and try to recover. So if this lane goes much more downhill for them, then this Tiny is really, really going to be hurting during the mid-game. I just hope for MUFC's sake that their mid and bottom can kind of compensate for that, maybe even go for a quick tower. But the thing is, Batrider is not known as an early-game push hero. He just can't really add that much, even with a Chen partnered with it. How are they going to push this tower without seeing some kind of TP reaction? I just don't know if these lanes are going to work out so well.
And they're not shutting down Fear either. In fact, he's kind of shutting down lane. He's been stealing some creeps in the jungle, using that Janata in the Shadow Walk. So in every respect, EG just really making better decisions than MUFC, and then just kind of outplaying them in the laning stage. Demon has been getting runes. Ken not really shutting him down farm-wise either. Demon's only 100 gold behind, so in all respects, nobody's gotten going yet. That being said, MUFC have some fantastic mid-game gankers, and the Sand King, the Batrider, who, although they're not really dominating their lanes too hard, they are getting the levels up. Arcane Boots already for Sharky, not going for Tranquils, not rushing the Blink Dagger, which I thought he might do. Normally that's what you see, but here comes the push top. 3 heroes grouped up. Or maybe not. No, just more pulling, just further denying this impoverished Tiny. He's level 3. It hasn't gotten any better. In fact, it might be getting worse.
Even if EG decides not to push this tier 1 that quickly, unless their supports get more farm, that's still to their benefit. I mean, this Lich and Tiny have completely lost out on the early game at this point. I don't really think it's too far out of the question to say that whatever this lane was supposed to accomplish, it pretty much hasn't at this point, and you kind of get that feeling so early on just because of how passive they've been forced to play. If EG decides to dive, who are they going to go on? Basically, the only target they can go on is bdiz on Disruptor because he has the lowest HP, and he can get Soul Rip. There's going to be a Tombstone to deal with as well. So even if they choose to counter-engage, they're probably going to lose 1, if not 2, for it, and they can really decide to push this whenever they want. It's just saying, hey, our mid-game is so good, and you've had the start that we're kind of expecting you to have in the way that our lanes worked out, that we can afford to take this extra time to push the tower because we know your bottom can't push either.
Fear's already got he's already got level 6 as well, and let's see, what is he doing? He's doing the standard bounty hunter build, just getting 2 points in the Shuriken. Probably will see the Janata max, but either way, I'm surprised they haven't even made a kill attempt on bottom lane. Sure, it's a bounty hunter, and like you pointed out, it is more cost intensive. Middle lane, ohaiyo gets tossed into Demon, Burrow Strike to follow it up. This could be the killer, hoping for the Stout Shield will proc. Not gonna matter though, and ohaiyo finally gets on the board and picks up quite a few levels. I think he got a level and a half off of that. So nice rotation, and EG not punishing this yet, but they might look to push top now.
That was definitely an awkward timing for a gank. There was actually a ward there too, and he pretty much just got caught out, so unfortunate that Clockwork ends up dropping, but that's a kill that MUFC desperately needs. They can stop the Clockwork, and top lane looks like we're going to have Lich get caught out here completely by an Ice Path, gets glimpsed back, and no real way he's going to be able to live through that combination, and maelk secures himself a kill, so now this tower is looking like it's going to be in a lot of trouble, and this is the point where MUFC really want to try to counter push, which they are, so it looks like it's going to be a 1-for-1 tower trade, and even with the weaker push, they managed to get the tower down quicker, which is something that he very, very much needed.
What a play by ohaiyo. Demon went in along with Fear, but ohaiyo tossed him back. The Clockwork not able to get the battery assault going to chase that kill down. The TPs come in. Fear will live, but the rocket is going to hit bottom lane. Okay, not shooting it towards mid. Most anticlimactic rocket of my life. It does force ohaiyo back to base, but they're really using toss creatively this game. First it was the toss into the Burrow Strike. Like you said, it was spotted by the Hill Ward, but still gets a kill, and now using toss defensively to throw that Clockwork away, help them survive.
Well, none of the first tier towers down from both sides. Oh no, maelk gonna get epicentered mid solo. He throws at the Ice Path, but it's not gonna be enough, and he just drops at the foot of his tier 1 tower in middle lane. Sand King getting pretty much a free kill. Now he's level 9. Hasn't put a single point in the Ice Path, by the way. He's just full Caustic, full Burrow Strike at this point, just to push the Clockwork back. And honestly, MUFC's mid has done quite well for himself right now. He's sitting at 37-6 compared to the Demon, who's 31-6, which isn't a huge gap per se. But he's already got a kill and an assist on Demon at this point. And Demon hasn't really done any movement whatsoever. Even Fear hasn't rotated from bottom at all. He's not even tried to go for a track kill or anything cheeky like that. And with a Dirge on your team, you really got to kind of wonder if EG wants to just kind of hold this out a bit, because their heroes all kind of fall off a bit, I would say, after about the 25 to 30 minute mark. And that's where heroes like Tiny are going to start feeling more effective. So I'm not sure if they really want to wait that much longer to try to pressure another first tier tower.
Right, Tiny having a bad start. He's still a hero that he doesn't need that many items compared to other carries to be effective. So let's see what's going to happen bottom lane. Sharky getting tracked up. Now Firefly trying to run away from Fear. Where will he go with this? Maybe should be juking up and down some cliffs, but just running straight back. He'll be okay. Ling is here. Ling can send him back to base as well. Give him that quick regen. And it looks like... No, it looks like they're having a bit of a debate about whether or not he should go back. Meanwhile, in the top lane, it's ohaiyo running as well. Glimpse back into the Tombstone, into the kinetic field, throws out the Avalanche. He'll drop to this. And then this... So another kill coming out, this time on the Tiny, who... Level 6, not a great start, and certainly, I feel at this point, they probably shouldn't leave him top, give him that safe lane to farm, send Batrider up there, send someone else to gank, because he needs to catch up a little more.
And this is a little bit worrisome for MUFC. The Tiny's already died twice, he's only got 20 stance, he's going for the patented drum build, and bottom lane looks like Fear is going to get lassoed here by Batrider. He's stuck with the Chen Creeps. There's the Centaur Stomp and the Flame Break to finish it off, so Ling picks up a kill there on Chen. So now... that's the first time the Bounty Hunters actually died this game, and they managed to do it shortly after the Batrider hit 6. It's going to be a pretty important pickoff. Stopping Fear from getting tracks up is definitely important, but honestly, he really hasn't made too much of an effort, again, to move from this bottom lane, and that's kind of the reason why you pick the hero. You don't really pick it to sit in a lane and just farm creeps. You want to go around, put up tracks, try to push some kind of an advantage, but they're playing it very passive. Hookshot actually onto Sand King as well in middle lane, and Demon finishing off the kill that jeyo and maelk started. So... one kill back-to-back from each team here at just 11 minutes into the game, and things are starting to pick up a bit, which I don't think is too surprising given the matchup.
And generally, this would favor EG, because they have the Bounty Hunter, it's good to trade, but like you said, he did rotate mid once to try and set up a kill, but that was it with Demon. We haven't seen any track kills yet. And if he's getting them, then the trading is fantastic for EG. But without them, I think it's starting to favor the team that's got the Chen, that's got this jungle hero, as well as the Lich who can be denying creeps in the lanes. Slowly but surely it is accumulating. They're pulling ahead in gold. They're pulling ahead in experience despite being down a kill. And you gotta wonder, at what point does EG say, okay, time to start pushing? They have the fast mech, although Ling's matched it with one of his own. Vitality booster up on the clockwork. It's getting to the point where they're not in a huge rush. They have at least 15 to 20 minutes before Tiny can really do a lot, but it's getting to the point where Batrider's going to have a Blink Dagger soon. He's only 300 gold away, and Ken as well. He's a little bit farther off, but they don't need two right away. Just one can get things rolling.
Right, they just need the one form of initiation to really get a team fight in their favor, and depending on who they catch, if they catch out somebody like Disruptor or Jakiro, even Bounty in certain cases, because he has opted to go for phase, which means he has low HP, then things are going to be going really well because they can burst those heroes down that fast, and that's what I was saying earlier during the draft, is MUFC wants to pick, and then they want to take a team fight from there. Their burst damage is tremendous. They have Avalanche Toss, they have Frost Blast from Lich, and they have the Burrow Epi from the Sand King. It looks like EG really just wants to dive this. They're throwing out rockets at everything, but MUFC with a little bit of good positioning. Looks like they're not going to get caught out for the moment, at least.
Really aggressive Tombstone, and pretty early as well. Track onto Ken, that is definitely the hero you want to track, so if he jumps in, he can't hide in Sandstorm, but there is a Blink Dagger on Sharky now, as well as a TP. It looks like they'll probably get the Tier 1. The Tier 2 was already knocked down earlier by MUFC. There is the glyphs cooling down. I think that's the main thing we're seeing here. If this glyph was up, I think they fight this. Ice Path catches out Net, and that's it. So both teams, a bit of an armistice. 7 kills in 13 minutes. Which is fine. Sometimes we expect to see this, but when you have a Tiny, a Batrider, Sand King on one side, and then Bounty Hunter, Undying, Clockwork, and the two supports as well for EG. I mean, there's at least 8 heroes in this game that want to be aggressive, and we're just not seeing that much aggression.
They didn't have the Batrider there. I think he was just opting to finish farming his Blink, and they didn't have 4 heroes there middle lane. If they decided that EG wanted to go for Tier 2, they could have still fought it. And since the Chen has his mech in hand and got up, I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't just go for it straight away. But again, Sharky now has the Blink Dagger. They can try to take some kind of engagement whenever they see that there's an opening, but EG has the kind of a team where if they stick together, how do you really engage into that and get out? That's really my concern. I mean, basically you're going to have Kinetic Field to deal with. You can get Glimpse back, which does break Flame Last, though, so the Batrider initiation is going to be a little less effective unless Disruptor is the target himself. And then you have things to worry about like Cogs, Hookshot, Ice Path. There's just so many methods to stop you from pulling somebody from EG out of position that I don't know if it's going to be really that good to rely on being able to pick somebody like that. Maybe MUFC has to think of a different game plan, try to get a blink up on more than one hero just to be able to overcome the fact that EG has so much to stop their initiation.
Now EG groups up bottom and looking to pressure this lane. Double damage rune picked up with Fear. Has not really progressed with the items, just the phase boots and bottle, and considering the start he had, it's not a whole lot to speak of. Middle lane, 4 or 5 heroes grouped up for MUFC. Haste turn on Sharky gonna end soon, but they do have this tornado to give them some flying vision. They might be able to pick someone off. Will they want to, though? That's the question. Glimpsing back in somebody. Batrider jumps in, catches out maelk, pulling him down into the river, but not really taking any damage. Meanwhile, Demon hooks on top of lane, the Chain Frost bouncing wildly. A nice epicenter, catching 2, didn't do the full damage, but a decent chunk of it. Ohaiyo tossing a creep in, snipes at the Bounty Hunter. Everyone dropping low. Now the Static Storm and the Kinetic Field. The Static Storm wearing off. Beautiful Burrow Strike onto 2, and EG is losing a prolonged fight. Not something we expected to see. Ohaiyo jams it in with a nice long-range toss. Ohaiyo picking up a double kill. Now the zombie's going to work, getting a kill the other way. How does EG lose that fight at their tower with everyone grouped up? As such a sustainable lineup, a lineup when you have a die, generally you want the fight to go longer, but just not able to pull it off in the end.
They popped Jeyo really, really fast. They threw out the Chain Frost right away. The Glimpse Kinetic Field was supposed to hit the Lich right there, but it didn't, so the Static Storm was actually delayed a little bit. And then Demon went in with his Cogs, ended up getting 2 people on his own team. Epied Fear actually got caught in those as well, so the Bounty Hunter died. This first tier tower is going to drop. They actually glyph it. Looks like they will be able to deny this at the very least if bdiz has proper timing, which, yep, he's going to be able to get it.
That hero creep almost got it.
Yeah, the range creep would have been the MVP if he got the tower, but overall, the coordination right there from EG was just really poor. bdiz with a little bit of a misplay with his glimpse timing and his kinetic field placement. If they had stopped that Chain Frost, Jeyo would not have died right there, and they for sure would have been able to win that team fight in convincing fashion because that's level 3 decay not there. The Tombstone was the only thing dropped before Jeyo died, so he really didn't get any other spells off whatsoever, but still very, very nicely done by MUFC. Good recovery.
Ooh, this might be a pickoff. Ling gets caught. Ice Path gonna whiff wildly, and Ling might live as a result. Do they really want to dive this far? It looks like the hook forward, not enough. The mech now being popped out, and it looks like he's going to live. This could be a big mistake. Sharky jumping in, jeyo again getting caught, not in the best position, but surviving for the moment. The static storm to try and zone MUFC back, and they're fighting without Ken, who's finally TP'd into this. The tombstone is still alive. Not sure MUFC want to force this fight, although they're thinking about it. They are definitely thinking about it. Again, EG just not really connecting on their spells. Bit of a sloppy fight for them, and amazingly, nobody dies. And Draskyl disconnects from the game.
I just disconnected from the game. I'm not really sure how nobody died right there, and I'm pretty sure that Chen is happy at the fact that maelk's ice path was about as far off as you could ever expect to be an ice path. So I'm going to try to reconnect. Oh, looks like I have managed to get back into the game.
Sandkid has now picked up not only level 11, but also his Blink Dagger. And EG, despite running in on dying, they don't have a pipe yet. He's gone for the mech first, and nobody else has managed to farm one. So this Epicenter could do a ton of damage. They also have other ways to set it up. You can Epicenter and then toss in the Sand King if you want, if his Blink Dagger is disabled. So it's going to be tough for EG to push at this point as well. I mean, previously we're talking about how hard it is for MUFC to get aggressive, but I think it's EG who are going to have some issues as well in that department.
Well, sooner or later, we're going to have Lich starting to get points into Ice Armor as well, which does make chasing a little bit more difficult, especially Lich against Bounty. You usually rely on that Bounty Hunter track speed to be able to stay with somebody, but whenever you hit somebody, it's going to be slow movement speed by 30%, so it kind of completely counteracts the fact that you have that track to be able to chase, unless you're not really worried so much about auto-attacking like heroes like Disruptor, Clockwork to a certain extent, and Jakiro. But Bounty and Dirge, I mean, they really want to stay in there as far as they can and try to make sure they can auto-attack whenever and get their spells out. So it's going to be a little bit rough, but I do kind of agree that MUFC is getting away with much more than I expected them to. That team fight mid was so important. I mean, the fact that that one thing, that glimpse, not hitting the Lich, not being able to stop the Chain Frost from going off, it hit jeyo twice, which is the only reason he was able to be dropped right there. And I think if that had been just a little bit different, then EG would have been feeling much more dominant at this point. But they still want to push. They're kind of just moving around the map as 3 or 4 at the moment. But MUFC is too, so we'll see if they actually want to try to do something. And Sharky is just on a mission over here, killing some Ursas.
I love it. Demon walks up the river and Sharky just flies down. And everyone else escapes. So in the end, the net doesn't really close. And Fear farming in the bottom lane. He's only level 9. At this point in the game, for an offlane bounty hunter who wasn't really harassed at all, you'd expect to see him much closer to 11 than he is, if not already hitting it. And MUFC want to get aggressive now. They're smoked up. They have the double Blink Dagger. They have the mech on the Chen, who's opted for Power Treads, not going for Arcane Boots, just wants to tank up as much as possible. And we'll see how it works. Still no points in Ice Armor. This, honestly, this surprises me. Generally what we see from Lich players is maybe 2 points in Sacrifice, and then you go back for Frost Armor. Because in the mid to late game, you don't really need a max Sacrifice. It's not going to help you much for the lane control anymore. And Ice Armor, Frost Armor is fantastic against heroes like Bounty Hunter, against Undying, and against Clockwork.
I'm a little bit shocked as well, especially considering the fact that maxing Sacrifice is almost overkill. I mean, you get 60% of whatever you sacrifice in terms of mana, and Lich is not a hero who's known to really spam that much. I mean, Frostblast has an 8-second cooldown, which is relatively low, but other than that, the only spell you have to cast is Chain Frost and Armor. It's not like he really needs the mana to max out Sacrifice.
Yeah, you don't exactly need Flash level of micro to pull this one off. We'll see. We'll see what MUFC do. They're grouped up top. I would like to see a lane ward get dropped just to give them some idea of if EG is here and where the positions are. EG should have the vision advantage with track, and you know, one thing that's a little bit disappointing for EG fans is they haven't taken advantage of the glimpse track combo. We haven't seen them find pickoffs, and MUFC aren't giving them really any opportunities right now. They had some earlier, but MUFC is just roaming as a pack at this point.
I'm a bit surprised to see EG playing this passive, but MUFC, I think, is taking the proper steps. They're sitting around as 3 and 4 themselves, just to make EG second guess if they can actually go or not. Actually, Lich is going to be the only one up here by himself, and Demon has an invis, but he's opting not to go in just yet. He's throwing out a rocket for vision. Is he going to hook? He is, and now we're going to have Lich in a bit of trouble here. Cogs go off. Battery Assault is already popped. Is there going to be any TP reaction? Don't see any just yet. The Hand of God goes off, though. Is he really going to live through this? Now he's going to get netted in place. We could see a potential team fight.
Ken's waiting in the wings. I don't think they have vision of him. They don't. He's got the Epicenter ready to go. When is it going to hit? bdiz thinking about zoning him away. Ken being ever so patient. Nobody's died just yet. The ping's coming out. I think they may have seen him, and now Fear's going to usher him away. Just had the smell of disaster for EG if they really committed to that, at least without clearing that fog. But for the moment, I think they're going to get this track on Ken any second. Fear's looking for it. Not yet. Then the push commences, so they're going to siege this tower. Tombstone drop.
I don't think he can see him.
Yeah, you're right, he can't. Ken's doing a good job of using these trees. And it is nighttime as well.
And Demon throws off a scouting rocket, just try to catch him, but Ken is just the most elusive Sand King I think I've ever seen. And he's going around. MUFC really does want to fight this.
Is he really going to get undetected and channel this epicenter right next to EG? Blinking and catching out 3 heroes. They spread nicely, but Jeyo drops a beautiful chain frost, bouncing between maelk, doing tons of damage. Jeyo has not been dealt with yet, though he hasn't fallen. There's your avalanche toss. Jeyo taking some good damage. Ohaiyo will drop. 2 heroes dead for MUFC. Everybody's so low on EG. We're seeing that sustainability as a buyback from Ohaiyo. A 2-hero avalanche. Where's that toss? Trying to toss one back, ends up getting nothing for a result. And EG still running. Jeyo trying to survive the kinetic field to block MUFC away. They're running all around. Now the Batrider stack starting to come up, tossed directly up in the air. When it's all said and done, it's a 2 for 2, I believe, and a buyback on the Tiny to get it. No idea how that fight went so well. It was a really good spread to avoid taking the bulk of that epicenter damage, though.
It was a really, really good reaction. The unfortunate part is Ken blinked in, but he blinked into an awkward spot where he basically had heroes all around him. Usually you want to blink in so you're on the outside of the fight so you can burrow strike in, manage to hit 2 or 3 with the burrow strike itself. The epicenter damage really only hit like 2 or 3 ticks, I would say, on a couple of people outside of maelk who took the brunt of it right there. And honestly, he's really tanky. He's got 1100 HP. Plus, they have a mech on the team, and they have Sorup. And, I mean, honestly, the Batrider blinked in. He got glimpsed immediately, so his lasso just completely broke. They couldn't drag Jeyo out and really take him down that fast. It did force buybacks out of MUFC. They ultimately did kill on dying, but it cost them a lot to do that, honestly. And I'm just still amazed that Ken was able to get into that spot without anyone seeing him.
They have a bounty hunter, for Christ's sake. They have a clockwork with rockets. And also, you often ward that area as well, just to try and get some vision, so... It's Ninja. This is Ninja Kane. This is not Sand King anymore that Ken is playing. And hell, I mean, Ken's a bit of a martial artist in Street Fighter, so I guess I think that's where his name comes from. So I guess it works on that level as well. It's still a bit of a lead for MUFC so far. Lead in terms of gold, lead in terms of experience, and in a dead heat where kills are being traded. Again, you expect the team with track to come out on top. But EG has maybe gotten 1 or 2 track kills at this point. I think that's basically it. Fear's 0-2 and 2 just has not had much involvement, and I don't think, even though the fights are going okay for them, I just don't feel like they're executing their game plan. They're not really forcing fights early with the Undying, with the Twin Head Dragon, the strong sort of pushing power Death Ball, and they're not finding pickoffs with the Glimpse track. It's a lineup that had a certain set of objectives in mind, but they're not achieving any of them.
I kind of feel the same way. I got to give props, though, to MUFC for really holding out the way that they have. And that one team fight middle, I feel, honestly, could spell disaster for EG just because of how much of a golden experience difference that makes. When you lose an engagement that badly, that early on, it really kind of changes the flow of the game. And heroes like Lich, where normally you really feel like you can just pick them off whenever you want. We saw Demon try to kill him solo. Like, Demon couldn't even kill a Lich because of the Chen popping his heal and going back to the tower. And then they take a team fight where ultimately they came out ahead a tiny bit because of a forced buyback, but they still aren't able to get the control of the game that they want. The more time they buy for this Tiny, the better it's going to be. I mean, he's got treads right now, he's got an Ogre Club point booster, and he's got his drum finish. So he is definitely going for an Ags. Once that's done, the zombies are going to be useless too. So
look at Ken. Invis in the tree, so even if they rocket this area, he's not going to be scouted. And that Tiny's farm comes after a buyback. I think Ken's about to go. No? Ken, stop trolling me, man. This is not fair. He's getting me excited, and then he's just not doing anything. And in the end, EG got an uncontested tier 2. Now the lane ward comes down. And there's a sentry. They might spot Ken. He's got to be real careful. Don't know if they noticed him, though.
Well, as long as EG stays grouped up like this, they keep going for towers. This is definitely what their lineup is meant to do. They only have 2 points in the Liquid Fire here on maelk, so the push isn't going to be as strong as it could be. He's just maxing Ice Path to make sure the cooldown's as low as possible, and they can get off as many good stuns and a little bit of extra added damage in the team fights that they can. But I still wanted to talk a little bit about Demon's item choice. He made a Vanguard against a team with the tiniest Sand King, a Batrider, Lich. I mean, that's like almost 100% magic damage team.
Right,
I'm not really sure if he feels... Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of a strange choice. I mean, getting the Vitality Booster makes sense if you just want that extra HP, because getting a straight-up hood with a low base HP isn't that good, because it only technically increases your survivability by a percentage of your total HP in terms of how much magic damage you take. But really weird to go Vanguard in this situation, I gotta say. Maybe he just wants to dive that heavily that he's expecting to take tower shots. That's really the only way I can think about it.
Flow's being traded back and forth, blinking by Sharky, pulling in Jeyo. Jeyo dropping low, if they can burst him down, this is not going to be a good fight for EG. Demon will fall. Sandcade Epicenter going off, but barely doing anything, so sort of making up, I suppose. He's going to have a Burrow Strike again, catches out too. Look at the magical damage. You talked about it. Where's that pipe? Where's the ability to stand against this? And now the right clicks. 4 heroes dead. EG just getting absolutely butchered. And now Fear trying to retreat, but even for Fear, there may be no escape. With the track, the long range toss, Sharky. Oh my goodness, that was from downtown. And Ken's gonna Burrow Strike in 1 second, blink in one more. Will he be able to pull this one off? Blinking forward, Burrow Striking. Beautiful play, and EG secures the team wipe. Where was the pipe, Draskyl? Where was the pipe?
That's really my kind of question. Demon went for a Vanguard straight into a Scepter against a hero who not only in the laning phase...
And jeyo went for a Vlad's as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just going all-in push. Demon, maybe he's just the certified, I'm expecting to get hit by a tower hero, but I don't really see how that helps him. I mean, the extra HP is nice, but he's basically wasted at this point almost like 1,000 gold on doubling the effectiveness of his Stout Shield against a team who's really not that reliant on taking auto-attack damage. I mean, or giving auto-attack damage, rather.
And when they do, it's Tiny, who's going to be hitting so hard with each attack that the block doesn't really do much. He blocked 20, 30 damage. So what? He's hitting for 300. Or he will be soon.
Well, at this point, EG, in my opinion, had far and better lanes. Like, their top and bottom were getting way more accomplished than I think MUFC wanted to, but during the mid-game, they've managed to pull it out. I mean, they've just got the better engagements. EG always seems to commit to a fight where somebody's out of position. That team fight we just saw middle lane, bdiz wasn't in range to stop the Flame Lasso from Batrider that time, so there was no way for them to stop that. And as soon as you're on dying dies at the beginning of a team fight, if he's the first one to drop, you pretty much have to abandon ship. You can't take the fight at that point. I think Demon kind of tried to sacrifice himself by walking in and throwing out the cogs to make sure that MUFC couldn't chase, but they ultimately ended up killing pretty much everyone anyway. So whenever they go into a team fight, you're not going to be able to run away from a Blink Batrider and a Blink Sand King. Like, that chase is just a little bit too strong, and especially with Sharky having a gem, not even Bounty Hunter is safe.
Nowhere is safe when Batman is afoot. And now it's just MUFC getting to do what they want, which, you know, is taking this Tiny to late game. He's got the Aghanims, he's got the drums. He didn't go for phase boots, he went for power treads, just a little bit more attack speed, and not going for a bottle or any sort of mana regen. Not having a wisp to give him extra mana through arcane boots, through clarity potions. So went for a little bit of extra stats, but he's still getting the items up. I think one more item for this Tiny, and I don't know if EG can deal with him anymore. And well, how do they stop him from getting that item? They haven't even gone for Rosh yet. They've had perhaps a chance of doing it for the past 10 to 15 minutes. But haven't opted to do so. They don't have much physical damage, so it wouldn't be an easy Roshan kill. And there's no medallion, so there's nothing to really bring it down quickly. But what do you do right now if you're EG? How do you get back into this game? How do you prevent this Tiny from getting too big?
Well, as awkward as it is to say, I think the Vlad's pickup might help in that respect. I mean, they do have 3 melee, so at the very least, they could rely on their lifesteal to switch people out. And they could take a Rosh, but you're right, it would take a long time for them to be able to take that down. And by that point, I feel like MUFC would definitely react to it, but they don't have any vision towards bottom river. It's basically all top at this point. Both those wards are about to go down, so we'll see if they want to try to get vision around the pit. But that's also a risk if you're EG. If you want to go and try to get some kind of an advantage, you can either push the tier 1 bottom, which is what they're choosing to do right now, or you can go for Rosh. They need something, and this tower is already quite low. I'm not even sure if MUFC is going to try to defend this. They have Glyph, but it's a 150 HP tower. It looks like they're just going to go ahead and be content to trade, or try to trade from middle at this point. But, I mean, EG gets a free tower. That's definitely going to help. But you have a Tiny now with an Aghanims completed, and if you lose a team fight on your side of the map, this is the point where you have to start really wondering how much are we going to lose if this team fight goes awry, because a Tiny will kill your base pretty darn fast.
Right. Speaking of Aghanims, Ling's about to get one, so he at the point that Chen has this Aghs, it's, you know, that sustains your push. So if you win a fight by a small margin, but everyone's low, that's okay. Chen will be there with a 30-second cooldown heal, healing everyone up. Can even if someone gets boots of travel, send them back to base, and then they can immediately rejoin the push. And well, MUFC are starting to work towards their pipe, and that will also help them push. Cloak, Rain of Regen, double set of Rain of Regen up on the Batrider, so he'll have the hood soon. Still a ways away from the pipe. EG are finally looking to get one. maelk is building it. It's such a late pipe, but they still need it. The problem now is, as we've been discussing, it's not just magical damage anymore. It's going to be this Tiny's right clicks, and it's a team that's fairly susceptible to them. jeyo, 15 armor, he's pretty tanky. The Bounty Hunter, reasonably so, but then a lot of these other heroes, Clockwork with 4 armor, the blink in from Sharky to catch out jeyo. So much for that, but the glimpse to cancel it, pulling him back. Epicenter goes off, jeyo taking tons of damage, tankied a lot, but perhaps not enough, as Fear is in trouble. Ken is there, Fear dropping low, fighting in the Firefly, taking tons of damage. Chain Frost not really accomplishing anything. Now Demon running. The pipe delivered to maelk right as the team fight breaks out. He will drop it. That's going to keep them alive. Jeyo buys back, rejoins the fight. What can he actually accomplish, though? EG with a buyback really needs to get something done. Sharky taking some Janata damage. There's the Chen heal. Burrow Strike in on 2. Ken hitting multiple hero Burrow Strikes fight after fight. Jeyo tanking. Jeyo gonna die twice for this. Ohaiyo still not addressed. The Ohaiyo problem is getting a little bit out of control. And now the Cogs bringing down the Lich. Forward they go. Sharky getting glimpsed back again by bdiz. bdiz really doing a nice job of blocking him down. But everybody, look at the HP bars on MUFC. They're all alive except for that damn Lich. And this comes after an Undying buyback.
They just can't seem to get everything together in a team fight. I mean, when bdiz dropped the kinetic field and the static storm, Demon walked in and cogged everybody out of it. He pushed them out of the kinetic field with cogs, which I didn't even know was possible, but apparently you can do that. So the static field basically did nothing. For static storm did nothing at that point. They're going to get a tier 2 tower, and we talked about how Tiny is going to punish you that much harder for being able to lose a team fight by just killing your base really, really freaking fast. And MUFC is just ahead in pretty much every single way imaginable, and EG still has the tools at their disposal to take a team fight now with maelk finishing the pipe, but it's as you said, the fact that he got it so late, and this is why I always kind of disagree with Vanguard in the first place, is that if you can buy a mech or a pipe in its place, then the cost efficiency for the item is always pretty much going to be better, because if he had a pipe for the earlier game team fights, like who's to say top wouldn't have gone better for them, you know? I mean, that's taking a lot less magical damage at a point where no one in MUFC really did any physical damage at that point. Tiny didn't really have any farm. He got completely shut down top, but now he's 8-3-8, and he's got 156 CS, which is the highest on the board, and he's worth almost the highest in the game, sitting at almost 9,100.
And there's also a BKB on Ken, so now he doesn't even have to blink in to set up this epicenter. He can just walk in, pop the BKB, and channel it, and there's nothing... I think the cogs actually... I think they still affect you on your BKB, so that maybe could cancel it. I believe it does disrupt channeling spells, but aside from that, I guess there's a hook shot. You cannot count on hitting that in a 5v5 clash, though. It's tough right now for EG, and I think they know that they're kind of under the gun. They smoke up as 5. They're going to maybe try Ninja or Rosh. This is something we talked about. It could have probably done this a lot earlier, but with the Vlad, this will drop. It's just going to take a little while. I don't know. This should help, though, because in theory, now if Jeyo gets focused, he doesn't have to buy back and walk into the fight to get involved. He'll just respawn there in a few seconds. I imagine that's who they give it to, but even then, it's an Undying with an Aegis. It's not a Morphlane, it's not an anti-mage with huge items. He's starting to hit that point where he falls off as a hero.
They just didn't really get a whole lot accomplished with him, and that's when you really have to start to fear for EG, because they put a tri-lane up there just to ensure that Jeyo had a good game, and honestly at this point he's got 5 deaths. He's 3, 5, and 6, which isn't horrible by any stretch. He's been in pretty much every single one of his team's kills, which is as it should be as an Undying, but his build, he has 2 items that basically give him no effective HP. Well, I shouldn't say effective HP, because Mechanism obviously does. It gives him stats and it gives him armor, but he bought a Vlad's. Like, I mean, yeah, middle lane, Jakiro's going to get picked off by the entirety of MUFC right there. A couple of Blink Initiators and a Lasso used, but again, EG just has really interesting item choice, and I'm not really sure if it's working out for the better, because Jeyo only has 1400 HP, and to be able to live, you have to be able to get decay spam off in a team fight, and right now they have the burst to kill him.
Something I'm curious about, which I don't know offhand, if you die after you've spammed decay a few times and you have Aegis, do you come back with the extra strength, or do you lose
No,
it?
you lose the strength, but they still have the debuff.
Well, that's unfortunate, because otherwise at least he probably comes back to life with, 4 or 5 stacks and an extra, 800,000 HP, but he's not even going to have that to work with anymore. And the other problem is that Ohaiyo can just kill the Tombstone now. It dies really quickly. I think it takes 3 auto attacks for him, and that's before he gets this Assault Cuirass, at which point it's just going to drop even faster.
Well, the cleave still hits the zombies anyway with his ultimate, so he doesn't even necessarily have to target. He could just be whomping on somebody and kill all the zombies anyway.
And also getting quite a bit of gold while he's doing it, so... EG, they feel restricted to their base, and you'll notice MUFC have done a great job. You don't really see these wards too often, but these are great when you just want to wait for your opponents to get caught out. Drop these wards. You don't even have to have wards inside the base, and Sharky can also go into Firefly, give them some better vision. If he jumps and picks anyone, he won't, because Demon's busy hooking creeps, and that's going to prompt Ken to come in. Channel Epicenter just for Demon. Will catch him, but Jeyo kind of walks into it. The Cogs to drive him back. Epicenter really doing nothing. Now Sharky tanking the tower. In comes the Chain Frost. Pipe is there to help keep them alive, but now finally Tiny enters the fight. Hook shot forward again from Demon, trying to do what he can to live, and he will successfully escape. So far, Batrider, the only casualty of this one. EG has pretty much used everything, and well, just not really able to chase as much as they would like. As bdiz in range for a glimpse, he's just in range for Ling, but he doesn't spot him. Ling may drop, try to TP away. There should be an ice path and a glimpse. There are. He's gonna drop. So in the end, finally it's MUFC who really the initiation there. I don't know why you're focusing Clockwork first, but I don't think that was the right choice.
And definitely not the right choice at all. They basically got to a point where they felt super confident. They had Sharky blink in, the Sand King had a BKB, so Ken was like, you know what, I can just do this, it'll be fine. And he used his Epi on a hero that has 2,000 HP. And they had the Dirge walk in, pop the mech, use a Soul Rope to keep him alive. And it is max rank too, and there was a lot of stuff around that team fight, so it was a pretty gigantic heal that he received right there from Undying. And then they continued to fight anyway. They got an extra track kill. I want to say that was 2 track kills. I'm not sure if Sharky actually got tracked before he dropped, but he was basically sitting inside the base, so I think that he actually did. And that's a turnaround that EG needs, but I feel like MUFC has to do that at least one more time for EG to really overcome the deficit right now in terms of golden experience, because looking at it right now, MUFC is like 10,000 ahead in gold and 20,000 ahead in experience, and that's a pretty steep gap even at 37 minutes.
And they've got the Rock Man, so... He went for an Ogre Club, then he went back for Hyperstone. I think he was considering BKB, thought he might need the Magical Immunity. But after they won a couple fights, he decides, okay, I can rush the Assault Cuirass, I can go for something a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more damage-oriented. And also, if he gets the Assault Cuirass up, that'll help them break into the base. He already brings the towers down quickly, but that'll just be the next level of pushing tower. MUFC, a little bit more hesitant after that fight. We're not seeing them try and force one again. EG still have the Aegis up. It's up for about a little over 2 minutes, it looks like, so feeling that they want to make something happen while this is up. And I love this change, as Demon's going to look to initiate. Not going to find anyone, though. Or is he? Or is he? Ling, get out of the jungle, Ling! Oh, Ling, what are you doing? This is not looking good for Ling. Is Demon going to catch him? Demon, no, not going to hook in on that. Just didn't want to dive.
He didn't have the team back up. It's definitely the right call. They're still smoked, though, and MUFC still feels a little bit of pressure, which is a bit surprising, given how far ahead they actually are in the game at this point. And I mean, one bad team fight, that's all it really takes at this point. It is 40 minutes in, so you have the potential to lose a Rax at this point, even if you lose a fight when you're that far ahead, because of the fact that the item's up, you get that extra damage in from right clicks and etc. You have heroes like Jakiro who can liquid fire your tower. They have strong push, so if they don't win this, they could still be in some serious trouble.
Will they win it? Net is in a very interesting spot. Parked away is that Lich. Ohio's a little bit postured aggressively. Normally you'd expect to see him stay back as the fight begins. Lich might get caught though. Demon is just really all over the place. Look at the tree. The fog usage from MUFC again using it to escape. Even when Demon is on the hunt. Even when Fear is on the hunt. And that ends the push. So EG does get a tier 2. A nice thing to achieve at this point in the game. If they win a fight, it'll make it easier to get Rex. But not using this Aegis to get into the base yet, not using it to claim a tier 3, not using it to secure racks, and they kind of have to go back. The creeps are really they're pushing quite a bit top towards their own base. So something nice accomplished, but I'm not sure it's enough to say they're fully back in this game.
Yeah, definitely not fully into the game by any stretch, especially considering their late game, I feel, is slightly worse than MUFC's. You have to worry about things like Frost Armor. Sand King's mobility becomes very, very tough to deal with, especially now that he has a BKB. And even when he initiated kind of poorly during that teamfight mid, there was no way they could really kill him. It's just very, very difficult for him. And they have all the teamfight items they already need. They have Pipe and they have the mech as well. So Chen's even got a Scepter at this point, so it's going to be 30-second cooldown on Hand of God, and an extended team fight where oftentimes I would say it might favor EG because of how far ahead MUFC is and how much tankier they are. I'd say that they could pretty much take one on the map whenever they wanted. As long as they don't lose right outside of their base, they're going to be in a pretty good spot.
If Lich is ever able to get to 16, he also gets a 1-minute cooldown on Chain Frost, which is rather ridiculous when you're pushing. There's so many spells going off that creeps will generally die almost instantly. So that's something else to look out for. Epicenter, the cooldown gets quite good as well, 100 seconds, so less than 2 minutes. And MUFC just at least waiting for the Aegis to expire. Definitely smart play by them. No reason to fight a 6v5 when you don't have to. I wonder if they're going to force a fight after it's up or to wait for the next Aegis, try to secure that for Tiny, who has completed the Assault Cuirass. I guess maybe they'll want the BKB on him. Not sure that he needs it, but there is a decent amount of crowd control to deal with it.
There is, and now that Undying's Aegis is finally faded, I think it's going to be MUFC now, looking to apply pressure. And this posturing from EG is a little bit strange because it's inviting MUFC to walk up to their doorstep. Yeah, you want to fight inside the base, that's one way to look at it, but you're also committing to the fact that, again, if you don't win that base defense, you're going to be in really sore shape. Right now, bdiz does have a buyback, and I think that Fear is pretty close to one as well, if not already has one, so they can try to defend. but they're basically not getting much gold at the moment. They went from very, very aggressive posturing to we're just going to go sit in our base because we lost the Aegis Center on dying. And that's just the feel of a team who is behind at this point. And with the bounty, again, I'm really surprised that it got to this point because when they picked him up, he sat in the lane until level like 8 or 9. He didn't move at all.
And he's 0-4-2. I mean, he's barely gotten anything accomplished in that off lane. This is rather unusual, to say the least, to see a bounty hunter in a 42-minute game only having 2 assists. I mean, as well as 0 kills and 4 deaths. He's been so effective for a lot of teams in this tournament, and as well as in other events, and even at the International Bounty Hunter, was a pretty solid off-lane pick, but just Fear not able to get anything going this game. And if the nice thing for EG, though, is if they do manage to win a fight, then the track hold is almost certainly going to be there. Pretty unlikely that Fear won't get at least a few tracks off if the push ever comes. EG, for the moment, just not going for one. And MUFC neither. Both teams just very, very passive play. But I think for MUFC, it's more of a decision of choice, where they just don't want to push. They know they'll be stronger later, whereas EG are feeling forced into this.
Well, EG is, in my opinion, on a little bit of a timer. It's going to get to a point where that Tiny is going to be too much to handle, and he is going for a BKB instead of going for the Daedalus build, which means that he can sit in team fights. So, with that being said, he can walk in. Things like Blade Mail that Demon's picked up right now aren't really going to do too much to him at all. He can just BKB, just hit him as many times as he wants. It's not really going to do anything. And, I mean, no one really has that much on EG, and it's 42 minutes into the game. This is where typically you'd see a carry with some big items, and you're like, oh yeah, he can do this, BKB, and really make his team presence be felt, but it's just not. I mean, Undying has a Scepter, a Mech, and a Vlad's, which definitely isn't poor farm by any stretch, but he's only level 14, and he was being given a free lane, essentially, top, and they shut it down so well. Roshan's going to be up here at about a minute, but actually probably less than a minute, and EG wants to try to get some aggressive posturing going to open up the Rosh pit and maybe even pick somebody off.
This could be real bad for MUFC, and it looks like they're not going to get caught, but they were without their Tiny there. Lose the Ched creeps. At this point, they don't do much anyway. Not really a big deal. And Ohio's just going to push top. He's going to force EG back, which means they can't really go for Rosh. It's not actually up yet anyway. But that's going to devote at least a few EG heroes top, so a nice sort of playing like that split pushing Prophet or Anti-Mage right now. And EG just... another gank fails. Now they are in position for Rosh, but again, that top lane is pushing quite a bit, and they really need to fight with all 5. I don't think they can take a fight with only 4, so... not sure they can really commit to this, but apparently they're going to take the risk.
Maybe they're just that confident in the fact that even if EG gets another Aegis, they can still take a fight. This isn't cheese, it's only the second Rosh, so it's not like that bad if MUFC gives it away, or they could just pressure the base so much that they force a reaction out of EG, which it looks like that's the path they're going to take. Yeah, EG can't afford to lose this Rax, so they're just going to TP back anyway.
Oh, maelk gets caught, pulled back in. The pipe is used by MUFC. Pretty early pipe, but it looks like it's working out. Ohaiyo going to work. Does not have the BKB, though, and that Blade Mail is actually doing a lot to him. Not enough, it appears. They're all dropping low. Ohaiyo will die, gives away a huge kill streak, immediately going to buy back. Glimpsing back in Ken. The BKB wears off on Fear. When it's all said and done, it was 1 hero dead for MUFC. The Chen Hand of God with that Aghanim Scepter, plus the pipe, plus the mech, just really making it hard for EG to fight. And do they even have buybacks at this point? The answer is no. Nobody has buybacks on EG, so this may be that tiny Rex that we were talking about earlier.
That was such a brilliant decision by MUFC. It would have been so easy for other teams to go, yeah, let's just go contest Rosh. They contested Rosh, but in a roundabout way. They said, if you take Rosh, we're killing your base, and you have to come defend your base. Otherwise, you know, they can't kill the Rosh that fast anyway. They might have lost 2 set of racks if they didn't send anybody back. They're going to glimpse Tiny out, but for the moment, it looks like we might see potential racks here. 10 seconds left on Dirge and Clockwork, and it looks like, yeah, the melee racks is definitely going to go down. They already glyphed.
Yeah, this is too easy. It's at a point where Tiny kills a Rex in 4 or 5 auto attacks, and 1 lane of Rex down. Now MUFC have a... not only did they prevent the EG Rosh, but when they decide to go for it, it's going to be real hard to contest. Creep Equilibrium will constantly be pushing into EG's base. EG want to try and get a pick off. I think they know if they don't find one now, they're in a lot of trouble, and Demon will actually find Sharky, but just gonna Firefly out. Don't even think they get this kill. He's got the 4-staff in a second. A lot of time he wasted. Maybe they do. The glimpse forward, but Sharky 4-staffing back. The Blink Dagger not available. Chen Heal to keep him alive. So much time just to get this 1 kill. I dare I say it, it's their first track kill in a very long time, and 5 heroes get the gold, but it comes at a big cost. It comes at the cost of the Rex. It comes at the cost of Tiny now having his BKB, and Blade Mail, like you said, not going to do anything at this point.
They could still take a team fight 4-on-5, I feel, because of that BKB finished up. Because BKB against EG, what damage do they have? They have a bounty hunter who's gone for a Sange, and they're probably going to be making that into a halberd, I would imagine, for the Tiny, just to make sure they can actually do something in a team fight. But yeah, I don't know if they can even take this as a 5-on-4. We'll see if the MUFC wants to go for it.
This is EG. I don't think they have any vision of this, and they might get caught. Avalanche from the high ground. Now the tornado to give some more vision for MUFC. ohaiyo has not popped the BKB yet. Tossing maelk. Now going to release that BKB. Kinetic field not effective when you have the BKB up. Ken comes in with the epicenter again. Not really finding the best epicenters this game, despite his ninja-like movement. Jeyo, Tombstone dead in just a few auto attacks. The BKB finally wears off. What a ridiculously long fight, and still nobody dead aside from that Bat Rider. About to respawn. Ken. Tornado finally ending, blinking forward. The burrow strikes have been absolutely fantastic, catching out 3 heroes. Who needs epicenter when you've got 3 hero burrow strike? maelk the next to fall. ohaiyo going to town, and this is probably it. Aegis is going to go the way of MUFC. Nothing EG can do, and then it's probably just going to be 5 mid, go for that second lane of Brax, go for the win.
Like I said, they're just so far ahead. The BKBs just make EG's team like deleted from the game, essentially. They're so magic oriented that now that the BKB physical damage dealers like Tiny are farmed enough to where they can actually afford to buy one, this is the point where EG never wanted to be. They never wanted to be 47 minutes into the game against the team that they're against right now, because they knew that even if their start and mid-game had been good, that it would have been tough to actually seal the deal. But to be honest, the early game was good, but their mid-game was just really, really schizophrenic. They ran all over the map, wasn't sure what they were trying to accomplish at all, and they just lost a couple of team fights that really put MUFC on the map, and against a team who already has better late game, you can't afford to do that, and this tower middle is just, it's dead. They don't have glyph. I think this might just be GG.
And you know what's crazy about it is this was an offlane Tiny. Yes, he didn't die that much, but he didn't farm anything. BKB from Fear charging in the middle of this fight. Look at ohaiyo, just gonna kill the Tombstone instantaneously. Tombstone is now dead. Fear trying to fight him, mono, but that's not gonna work. Demon tossed up in the air. Meanwhile, on the back lines of play, bdiz is being brought low. Jeyo as well. Net is virtually soloing him at this point. The ohaiyo problem still not being addressed. Demon in some trouble. Jeyo gonna go down. Actually eats a craggy proc and instantly dies there. Nobody going down for MUFC, and we're seeing Chen is still a very scary late game support. Spamming Hand of God. That's at least the second one he's used in that fight, and this prompts EG. Call the GGs, go to game number 2. For anyone who doesn't know, and I don't even know if Draskyl knows, this is a best out of 2 formats. You get 1 point for a tie, you get 3 points for a win if you win both games, and you get 0 points for a loss. In EG, they tied SQL, which is, or Promofu's Throw fan club, which arguably is the weakest team in this group, and MUFC arguably the second team may be there with EG. They still have to play the top dogs, they still have to play IG, they still have to play LGD. I really don't think they can afford to lose this series, so they gotta put something together in game number 2.
Well, I feel as though their picks were so aggressive. Maybe they felt a little bit confident going into this matchup against MUFC, but ultimately, MUFC managed to get a couple of good pickoffs and win game 1. So yeah, EG definitely wants to bounce back in game number 2, take a win, not get completely shut out. That would be a very, very big problem. But the clockwork for me, it just didn't work this game. You know, his item build, the way that he played it, I didn't really feel like it was a pick that synergized well with the team. I mean, if you think about it, Cogs with Static Storm and Macropyre sounds good, but we didn't see it once. Like, it never, ever happened that way. Whenever he cogged, he would usually push people out of things, or just the way that you have to position to actually get it off in the first place is very difficult. So it's a very hard lineup to run effectively, I would say, at the very least. And, I mean, MUFC had a team where you get to a point, it's like only one ultimate really matters, and that's Epicenter. And the fact that Ken didn't have great ones, but they were good enough to win the game, I feel as though their draft, obviously late and mid-game, was just a bit stronger than EG's, and they didn't get enough done early.
There you have it. I think that's a very sound analysis. So we'll wrap this game up, guys. That was MUFC versus EG, game number 1 for the G1 League. You've been watching myself, LD, and then of course Draskyl. If you're not already doing so, you should be following him. Twitter.com/Draskyl. I believe that's just with 1 L. His stream, he does stream a lot of pub games, pretty entertaining, I must say. Twitch.tv/Draskyl with 2 L's, just to make your lives a little bit more confusing. And I don't think he's a Facebook or a YouTube, so that's how you can keep in touch with him. Thank you all for tuning in very much. Game number 2 is coming up soon. Let's see, can EG bring it back to a 1-1, or MUFC gonna shut him out with a 2-0 sweep? We'll find out in just a few moments.